Hey Squishies! Welcome back to another vlog. This is Steven Universe, Season 4, Episodes 20 to 22. The episodes are Lion 4 Alternate Ending, Dugout, and The Good LARS. Let's just jump in. Lion 4 was a really good episode. It wasn't quite the gut punch that Lion 3 was, but, you know, what is. It was still a good, solid episode that I feel like is another one that's kind of not quite calling out, but at least gently prodding at a particular behavior in the fandom. Specifically, you know, the paranoid viewing, because that's what Steven is doing at the beginning. He's looking for clues in his mother's video. And, of course, they're not there, because that's not what the video is about. The video isn't a message hinting at some future destiny. It's just his mom expressing how she feels to her soon-to-be-born child. And, you know, that's always been what made the video so powerful, is that emotion it carries. And it's never been about, you know, does it hint at some future destiny for Steven? But it would not surprise me to learn that there are fans who have watched that obsessively looking for exactly that. I know I've before found myself wondering about the question of, like, did Rose have some kind of purpose in mind for Steven? Was there some kind of destiny he was created for, as it's phrased here? And the thing is, even if she did, it doesn't matter. Because he is Steven. You know, he is not her. He is his own person who can choose whatever he wants. And therefore, while he may have a purpose, that's something chosen for himself. That's something he has to decide. He may decide to go along with what his mom would have done, but I think increasingly over the last couple seasons we've seen that what his mom would have done isn't always the right thing. And that Steven has different ways of doing things and different ways of thinking about things. In some ways he's a lot like her, but in some ways he draws on Greg, and in other ways he's a unique individual, because of course he is. As the video keeps reminding us, he's a human being. And I love the little aside in Nora's video that, you know, the phrase human being implies an action. It's an ongoing, continuous action. It's being, you know, a verb. That, you know, a human isn't just an is, it's a being. There's continuous process going on, whereas gems at least believe that they are what they are. Now obviously that can't be true because they're alive, and therefore continuously in motion and processing. The mere fact that they can, you know, communicate, respond to their environment, that kind of thing, all of that indicates that some kind of process is going on. Doesn't necessarily have to be in any way similar to the human process. I don't think there's a lot of chemical reaction going on inside a gem. Something else is the process that creates what they are. But the point is, gems are beings too, but they have a culture that has very strongly taught them that they're not. That you're born as what you are and you stay as that your entire existence. The fact that they seem to all immediately diverge once they get away from that culture suggests, you know, that that's a lie. But leaving that aside, it was really great to see this other video. The fact that it's the same ideas but a lot of the details of the wording are different. Rose goes on that little digression. There's the clear indicator near the beginning that the Nora video was made after the Steven video. And it's clear that she's thought a little bit about some of what she said in the Steven video. Like in the Steven video, she says, they will look to you, take care of them. In the Nora video, she says, if they look to you, take care of them. That's very different. And I think that's a product of Rose in between thinking, well, you know, I don't know for sure what's going to happen, so I should say if. And that's important because what that means is that that video wasn't scripted. Rose did not sit down and write out what she was going to say and memorize it and then make the video. She was speaking from her emotions. She was giving word to them on the fly, and so those words are slightly different the second time. Which is, you know, I mean, obviously, the video was scripted by the writers of the show. Both videos were. But diegetically, the implication is that Rose did not script the video, and therefore it can't have those kinds of carefully placed little clues that Steven is looking for. Now, the show is scripted. Kind of has to be. More specifically, I believe it's a storyboard-driven show. So, and somebody who knows more about this type of animation, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the way a storyboard-driven show works is there might be a written story concept or outline, but the actual scripting is done almost like a comic strip. They script it in the storyboard stage, so whoever storyboards it also writes the dialogue. This is to contrast other shows where there's a writer who writes a more traditional script that describes events, and then a storyboarder takes that and creates storyboards based on it. For example, I believe Avatar and Legend of Korra are the latter type, where a writer writes out a script first. I am like 99% sure that My Little Pony is writer-driven. But I remember reading that Steven Universe is storyboard-driven, and it would explain why all the creators associated with it, the names we keep hearing are names of animators, not writers. I mean, obviously, if it's storyboard-driven, they're both. But they're people who are known as animators. The point I'm making is that while the show is scripted, the implication seems to be that Rose's video is not a container of secret messages, and that the show in general is not handing out secret messages, the occasional bit of foreshadowing notwithstanding. You know? The tease with the key leading to the treasure chest is another thing. You know, it's like, you know, people speculate about that treasure chest a lot. And I think it's, again, the show's way of saying, like, don't worry about it, there's just a treasure chest there. It might be significant in a future episode, it might not. It's entirely possible that the creators of the show haven't decided yet what's in the chest. We may never find out what's in the chest, or it may get opened up and it's got, you know, old Mr. Universe t-shirts. Or pirate doubloons from the time Rose was a pirate, who knows? The other thing I really liked was the fact that the junk pile, like the key unlocks the entrance, but there's no back wall. Could have gone in the back. Anyone could have gone in the back way at any time. It's not guarded. It's not secret. The secret of the show is open. It's that there is no secret to the show. It's a show about emotion. And those emotions are presented quite clearly on a regular basis. They're right out there for us to see. The feelings of the characters are what drive this show. There's no secret conspiracy. There's no dark cabal. Rose didn't sit down with, I don't know, Lion and Pink Diamond and Mystery Girl and, plot out the creation of Steven, which would lead to, fulfill the prophecy of the whatever blarg and save the universe. She had a child because she wanted a child. Is it possible that she was trying to escape from the consequences of some of her actions? Maybe. Is it possible that she hoped that Steven would be able to do things she can't? Probably. I think most parents, my understanding, is kind of hope for that. But ultimately, it's something she did because it was something she wanted. So now, after having talked for over 10 minutes about Lion 4, Dugout is an episode which happened. Yay. Yeah, I was not really engrossed by that episode. Doug Maheshwaran's characterization seems to kind of come out of nowhere. In the episode where they first meet Connie's parents, the one that introduced Alexandrite. Was it Alexandrite? I think it was Alexandrite that was introduced in that episode. Her parents aren't really distinguishable from one another. They're both incredibly strict. There's been hints since then that it's really the mom that's the disciplinarian and the dad is a little easier going. But this seems completely out of left field. There's this idea that he's silly and fun and not really strict at all. Just doesn't fit right for me with his past behavior. But okay. Mostly I feel like this episode was kinda just there. It didn't really feel like it advanced the characters any. I guess it did show us a sign of Doug that we hadn't seen before, but is Doug a character we really cared about? In the past, the emphasis has always been on Connie's relationship with her mom. I guess it's nice seeing her relationship with her dad, but it doesn't really inform either character that much. I think mostly because it feels like a rehash of Steven's relationship with his dad. And that just doesn't feel like a fit for who Connie is and who her dad has been depicted to be in the past. I don't know, maybe he just puts up a united front with her mom, and when her mom isn't around, he's much more fun, but that's really not something that Connie has hinted at before. I don't know. Regardless, entertaining episode, I guess. And whatever that weird shadow thing was, there's another thing with weird blobby wings. Maybe that's meant to be butterfly wings or lapis-like wings. Whatever it is, clearly has to be gems or gem monsters. And they're following Onion. And Sadie in the next episode. Okay. Regardless, that raises the next episode, which is frankly a lot more interesting. Which is a surprise for me to say about a LARS episode, but, credit where credit is due. This is the good LARS. This is a good LARS episode. LARS, they're starting to flesh LARS out a bit as a character. I've always been very harsh on him in the past, and I think deservedly so. He's an asshole. But he's got this other side, this, side that's really just a lot of low self-worth and what seems to be like some pretty strong social anxiety, maybe not in like the clinical sense of social anxiety disorder, but he's got anxiety about how he'll be perceived. He's afraid that he'll be seen as quote-unquote lame. He's afraid that his hobby, which he's very good at, and which really does seem to mean a lot to him. Like, look at the way he talks about that ube roll. About, like, how he's liked it since he was a little kid, that kind of thing. Or look at the effort he put into that pumpkin-shaped pumpkin bread, which, oh my god, cream cheese icing is the best. That really sounds good. Yeah. He's really passionate about this. And we've seen that before, that he can cook. Back when they were stranded on the island, I think? That might be when it was. Regardless, this is something he cares about, and he's afraid that it'll be looked down upon. It makes you wonder, because his parents have made clear that they have very low expectations for him. And it makes you wonder if maybe they've put down his baking. Like, maybe they don't see it as being a good hobby or appropriate or, whatever. Or they just, like, don't care about it as much as stuff like grades. I don't know. The point is, for whatever reason, he's got this anxiety about it, and he's afraid to go to the party because he is afraid of being rejected. And underlying that is, this conflict that we've seen before, that he's been an asshole about before, which is that he's afraid that he's torn between his feelings for Sadie and his fear that he will be rejected by others for his feelings for Sadie, that Sadie's not cool enough. Which, again, this is all entirely in his mind. But it's very real for him, and very hard for him. And it doesn't remotely excuse the giant asshole he's been all series, but it certainly adds some complexity and depth. Makes you wonder if they're going to be doing something with him. Now, the show does a lot of redemption arcs. It did Peridot. In a sense, Lapis, though she was always more sinned against than sinning. She was still far from perfect, and it did do some stuff with her there. In a sense, with Amethyst, though in Amethyst's case it wasn't like she was evil and turned good, it was more, she had these negative feelings about herself and redeemed herself, improved herself. Pearl had one after she betrayed Garnet's trust. There's been a lot of them, and it's one of the things the show just kind of does a lot, and so I could see them doing one for LARS. I just hope they do it well, if that's where they're going. I hope they do it well, because the other characters, like Peridot was just a villain. She did awful things, but in this kind of cartoony way. Lars is an asshole. In some ways, that's harder to do a redemption arc for, because I don't think very many of us have, in real life, met someone who tried to destroy the Earth. I think relatively few of us have met people who have actually tried to kill us. Most of us have met an asshole. So, it's something we're kind of familiar with, and so redeeming it is a bit more of a challenge, I think, in some ways. But we'll see. We will see. Alright. I'm gonna go watch some more, because I've got the rest of this Steven Bomb and the hour-long special thingy, which I suspect is just a Steven Bomb they aired on one night, but still. I've got those to get through, so I'm looking forward to it. I will see you all next time. Bye!